Good morning and good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of Before Coffee. It is Mucking Fonday here. Have you had a good weekend? Has it been a bit disastrous or eventful? Or maybe you did nothing. I never do anything. And that's my favorite thing about being alive. The ability to do nothing, right? It's your right as a citizen of the earth to do nothing if you want to. That's my PSA for you. This is Before Coffee, the father-daughter comprehensive news of Planet Earth podcast, where we look up our stories 10 to 15 minutes before we started. We haven't had any caffeine, and...
Yes, it's the new and improved before coffee. We're later in the day, and we've upped our game. That's right, we've upped our game, so up yours.
Let's get started with today's Mucking Fonday headlines. Today on Mucking Fonday, I'm against Ukraine's entry into the European Union. Polish president-elect has an opinion. And contractor accidentally finds ancient temple complex beneath destroyed house in Syria.
Here's Roger from the United States, a Mucking Fonday, where we're going to talk about American doctors are moving to Canada to escape the Trump administration.
Update on the Ocean Conference, in which they're acting to protect the oceans. In our culture news, it will lift the spirits. Kyiv the state's most English of ballets after Russian repertoire boycott.
And it's National Earl Day. So if your name is Earl, it's your day. It's also National Donald Duck Day, which is June 9th, 2025 on Before Coffee.
We love things not working. Woohoo! Okay, let's start with our segue roll. We're gonna figure out what we're playing today. We're not playing. What we're saying for our segue. Sorry, I also roll a wheel to decide what video game I'm playing after the show. So I love wheels. I guess the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree because I love rolling wheels. You love rolling wheels. It's obviously a genetic marker.
So what I get? You love rolling wheels.
I would love for it to tell me what you got. Yeah. There it is. Non sequitur. It's non-sequiting time. Yes. Let's non-sequit our way.
I could totally get the wrong conclusion from your story. Oh, yeah. All right.
The first story is I think it's a pretty quick one, and it's just a little update on what now Rocky, the Polish president-elect, saying, because, you can't be right-wing and not have some sort of controversial opinion. That goes against everything everyone else stands for. At the moment, this is on Kyiv Independent by Vladimir Ivanshin. At the moment, I am against Ukraine's entry into the European Union, Polish President-elect Karol Nawrocki told the Hungarian outlet Man Dinner in an interview released on the 7th of June. I believe that was Saturday. On the one hand, we must support Ukraine in its conflict with the Russian Federation. Ukraine must understand that other countries, including Poland, Hungary, and other European countries, also have their own interests. Said. Nawrocki won the second round of the Polish presidential election on June 1st with 50% of the vote, which I've already talked about this last week, but that is not high enough of a difference in voting for me. I want like a 5% differential or something. Well, 50.89, not even 1% difference. He had previously voiced of opposition to Ukraine's membership in the EU and NATO, despite supporting Ukraine's sovereignty. Poland has such an interest, for example, in the exhumation of Volyn massacre victims, Nawrocki said. Polish and Ukrainian researchers began exhuming victims of World War II-era massacres on April 24th in Western Ukraine. It was the first exhumation since 2017, when Ukraine imposed a moratorium in response to the destruction of Ukrainian Insurgent Army UPA memorials in Poland. During the campaign, I did not agree, and as president, I will not agree to unfair competition with Ukraine for Polish agriculture, Nawrocki said. Competition? Doesn't he know that if they join the EU, there won't be a competition because it'll be a free market? Hello? Hello? Huh? Hi. Economy degree, anyone? No? I never studied economy, but I'm going to make decisions on the economy. EU tariffs on Ukraine agriculture exports resumed on June 6th amid opposition to Ukrainian exports and its EU accession from Eastern European members, including Hungary and Poland. I see Ukraine as a country that, although it is very bravely defending itself against the Russian Federation, must also respect the interests of other countries and otherwise support Ukrainians. Well, they also have the same thing, right? well, we're going to try to make as much money as possible to fund this war. So, yeah, we're going to sell grains. In contrast to other Eurosceptic leaders in Europe, including Slovak Prime Minister Robert Fico and Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban, Nawrocki does not express pro-Russian views because that would be insane. I don't know if a Polish person gets elected into a position of power as a pro-Russian, the world's over. Give up. Let's do a restart. In what world would the Poland be like, yeah, Russia, we love those guys? This goes against every fiber of a Polish person's being, okay? I've been repeatedly accused President Vladimir Zelensky of taking advantage of allies. Yeah, he has to. He's in a war. That's what you do when you're in a war. You take advantage of people. By the way, that's not a negative thing. Taking advantage of people. Exploiting them is the negative bit. Taking advantage is a neutral thing that you should be doing all the time. Yeah. All the opportunities you could find. If Poland elects somebody who is pro-Russian, the world's ended. Like, actually, pigs are flying. You know, we're living on Mars. Just all the things. I just cannot imagine a world in which there's a pro-Russian, pro-Russian civil servant that makes it to prime minister or president in Poland. In Poland!
Right.
Yeah, it's insanity.
They have their own leopards eat my face party.
Exactly. It's like, what? No, I don't. I don't know. I would just lose my mind. But give me a non sequitur.
Non sequitur.
Yeah.
That's great. That time that it's almost like you can fool these people by telling them the truth, right? It's like, yeah, we're gonna totally dominate you and make you do what we want, whether you want it to or not. That's right. That's what we want. As long as those other guys get punished. Whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever, morons. You hate the government telling you what to do, then you vote for the government telling you what to do. What are you gonna do with dumb people? Anyway, that's my non sequitur.
Okay. For my next short story. Hey, we found some secret ancient ruins in Syria. That's right. We talked about this a couple months back about how now that Syria may not be in the middle of a war anymore, more archaeologists can make it to Syria to study all these ancient ruins because Syria is one of the oldest countries, has some of the oldest cities that are still standing for the most part. So it's really cool to find an ancient temple under your house. This is in northern Syria on the NOS, a Dutch website. A contractor accidentally discovered an ancient temple complex. He was digging to remove the remains of a destroyed house when he came across the remains of an underground bird complex, reports the AP news agency. It's probably more than 1,500 years old and originates from the Byzantine Empire, the continuation of the Roman Empire. The contractor made the discovery in May. It's not even as old as I thought it would be, but the Byzantine Empire isn't that long. Now, it's after Rome and before the Ottoman Empire kind of era. I was thinking like ancient, like Syria, you know, the Greeks. Ancient. The contractor made the discovery in May, Emirat al-Numan in Idlib province, around 80 kilometers south of Aleppo. During the years of war under the regime of dictator Assad, millions of Syrians lost their homes. In Emirat al-Numan, 2 houses were looted and demolished. It reports that many roofs in the area, many houses standing, but they no longer have a roof. Residents of Syria are returning after the fall of the regime since December, and during the work, stone openings were discovered. Residents alerted the Antiquity Service, a specialized team, came to inspect, and they came to the site. Given the presence of the cross, pieces of pottery and glass shards, this tomb dates back to the Byzantine period, said the director of antiquity in Idlib. The cross is engraved on top of a stone column. Oh yeah, very Templar cross. There are already hundreds of archaeological sites in Idlib, and residents see the ruins as a sign of hope. In the past, many foreign tourists came to Marat specifically to see the ruins, says one of them, who came with his son to see the discovered tomb. We need to take good care of the antiquity, store them, and bring them back to their original state. That will help restore tourism and the economy, and make Syria a safer place to go. After the fall of the Assad regime, the first people returned home at the end of last year. In March, thousands of people fled again when violence flared up in western. According to the Dutch official report on Syrian security, there have been several active armed conflicts in the country since the fall of the Assad regime. Yeah, I mean, what were they in power for, like 10 years or something? More than that? It's gonna take a while to get rid of all the, people who want to fill in the power imbalance, or, still believe they can take it back for Assad, or all that other, ideological bullshit that puts people who are just minding their own business in harm's way. But some good positive news about still finding ancient ruins. I would really call it ancient, classical, not even classic. It's a 1,500-year-old ruin. That's pretty old, but I was thinking way older. Non sequitur, please.
Sequitur. I was watching Indiana Jones this week. I wonder if he's going to make a... I was going to make a new Indiana Jones movie about the hidden secrets of Syria. Huh? All exciting 110-year-old Indiana Jones out there. Maybe his grandkids. I know.
Yeah, they need to have a movie where he just, gives his hat to someone else, Maybe they did do that. I know they had a film recently. Maybe that's what happened in that film. I don't know.
Right. Yeah, it happened during World War II, and he's being chased by Nazis, so he'd probably be, now he'd be in his hundreds, right? Somewhere in his hundreds. Anyway, there's your non sequitur, totally unrelated. Is a totally
Let's
space
roll
out
our
on your story.
Segue
Right.
wheel for our next story.
Okay.
Gonna be an accurate metaphor.
All right. Accurate metaphor having to do with doctors. That's right. The brain drain in America continues. Donald Trump's not only an insufferable twit, he's not only a racist, he's not only an asshole, he's not only a violent Nazi, he is totally incompetent. And we're gonna go into this news is from KF.
Is this still your non sequitur?
No, this is related to Trump works for Russia, basically. It's a recurring theme. Yeah, I can't go see a doctor anymore. Why? They're leaving. Oh yeah, that's not going to affect anybody. Hey, I can't get an appointment to a doctor. Why? There is no doctors. As rural hospitals shut down in America. Yeah. Anyway, earlier this year, as Sticky the Clown was beginning to reshape the American government, Michael, an emergency room doctor. Oh wait, we gotta give the byline on this one. This is from kffhealthnews.org, written by Brett Kelman and Una Zenda. I want a name like that. Earlier this year, as Diaper Donnie Trump was beginning to reshape the American government, emergency room doctor was born, raised, and trained in the United States, packed up his family, and got out. Michael now works
later, losers.
In a small town hospital in Canada. KFF Health News from NPR granted him an anonymity because he fears he might face reprisal from the Trump administration if he returns to the U.S. He said he feels some guilt. What does that tell you? The government's going to act against you just because you went to another country? Oh, okay. Yeah, that's what we were founded on. The principle of punitive whatever.
I mean, this isn't news to a lot of people who were living abroad in 2016 when Trump first got elected. A lot of people instantly relinquished their U.S. citizenship. They're like, I'm not going back to that country. And then, you know what Trump did? He raised the price to 2,000 USD in order to relinquish your citizenship. It used to be like $100 or something, or $10, something really small, and they increased it 10.
Right.
Punishing you for being American.
Trump agenda. Well, he says he feels some guilt. He did not say. He says he feels some guilt. He did not stay to resist the Trump agenda, but he is assured in his decision to leave. Too much of America has simply grown too comfortable with violence and cruelty. Part of being a physician is being kind of place, and I feel like our country is developing Our country is developing to really step on people who are weak and vulnerable. Michael is among a new wave of doctors who are leaving the United States to escape the Trump administration. In the months since Trump was reelected and returned to the White House, American doctors have showed skyrocketing interest in becoming licensed in Canada, where dozens more than normal have been cleared to practice, according to Canadian licensed officials and contractor recruiting businesses. The Medical Council of Canada said in an email statement that the number of American doctors creating accounts on physiciansapply.ca, which is typically the first step of being licensed in Canada, has increased more than 750% over the past 7 months compared to the same time period last year. From 71 applicants to 615. Separately, medical licenses in Canada, most popular provinces reported a rise in Americans either applying for or receiving Canadian licenses, or at least some doctors disclosing they were moving specifically because of Stinky the Clown. The doctors that we're talking to are embarrassed to say they're Americans, said John Philpott, CEO of Can-Am Physicians Recruiting, which recruits doctors into Canada. They say that right out of the gate. I have to leave this country. It is not what it used to be. Canada, which is a universal policy funded by, let's do this again. Canada, which has universal publicly funded healthcare, has long been an option for U.S. trained doctors seeking an alternative to the American healthcare system, which is basically, we're only giving you care that the insurance company approves for you, and even whether it's the right care or not, we don't give a shit. Give us some money and I'll go away. That's American healthcare in a nutshell. You're not getting any healthcare. You pay for nothing, basically, in the United States. You give your money to insurance companies so they can deny your health care. So I don't even know what a healthcare system anymore, but that's basically all it is. You give money to an insurance company, you get nothing. Money to an insurance company, you get nothing. I've been going through this my entire life. They give me minimal coverage for all that money I just dump down the drain. They give me minimal coverage, and they don't cover anything I actually need. Anyway, Canadian provinces have relaxed some licensing regulations in recent years, and some are expediting licensing for the U.S. trained physicians. In mere months, Stinky the Clown administration has jeopardized the economy of tariffs, ignored court orders and due process, threatened the sovereignty of U.S. allies, including Canada. The administration has also taken steps that might unnerve doctors specifically, including appointing Brainworm Bobby to lead the federal health agency, shifting money from pandemic preparedness, discouraging gender-affirming care, demonizing fluoride, deep cuts to Medicaid. Yeah, let's make more sick people. Let's have more tooth decay and more sick people. Yay! The Trump administration did not provide any comment for this article when asked to respond to doctors leaving the U.S. for Canada. White House spokesman fascist Kush Desai asked whether the KFF Health News knew the precise number of doctors and their citizenship status, then provided no further comment. In other words, we're gonna punish them! I need to know them! I don't know doctors' names! I want their names! That's what they're interested in. I want to punish them! That's all they're interested in. Not interested about your health, your anything. They're small. Making money, punishing their enemies, and accumulating power. Those three things. If you're thinking you're getting anything out of this administration, you are a moron. You're getting punishing your enemies. That's what you want. You want them to have more power. That's what you want. Anyway, that's all you're getting from these fascists. You're not getting shit. They ain't doing nothing for you. They're doing it for themselves. They're making their friends rich. Wake up, morons. Anyway, Philpott, who founded Can-Am Physician Recruiting in the 1990s, said the cross-border movement of American and Canadian doctors has, for decades, ebbed and flowed in reaction to political and economic fluctuations, but that pull towards Canada has never been as strong as now. Philpott said Can-Am has seen 65% increase in American doctors looking for Canadian jobs from January to April, and that the company has been contacted as many as 15 doctors a day. 15 doctors, American doctors a day, saying, I will work in bumfuck Ontario. I'll work in asshole Saskatchewan. Just get me the fuck out of this place. Anyway, they're ready to move to Canada tomorrow.
That's not a real quote.
Well, asshole Saskatchewan isn't a real city either. Anyway, they're ready to. Neither is bumfuck Ontario. Anyway, they're ready to move to Canada tomorrow. They're not concerned about what their income is. Nope, I can live. I'll be fine. I'm a doctor. I'm smart like that. Anyway, the College of Physicians and Surgeons of Ontario, which handles licensing in Canada's most populous province, said in a statement that it registered 116 U.S. trained doctors in the first quarter of 2025, an increase of at least 50% over the prior 2 quarters. Ontario also received license applications from 260 U.S. trained doctors in the first quarter of this year, organization said. British Columbia, another populous province, saw a surge of licensure applications for U.S. trained doctors after Election Day, according to an email statement from the College of Physicians and Surgeons of British Columbia. The statement also said organizations licensed 28 such doctors in the fiscal year that ended in February, triple that total from the previous year. Quebec's College of Physicians and applications from U.S. trained doctors have increased, along with a number of Canadian doctors returning from America to practice within the province, but did not provide specifics. Anyway, there's your... I'm going to cut this off. It's a little bit long, but you get the gist of the story. Yep. Allison Carlton, a famous medicine doctor who moved from Iowa to Manitoba in 2017.
Relatable. Hey, that's me.
Said she left to escape the daily grind of America's for-profit healthcare system because she was appalled that Trump was elected the first time.
Hello.
Yeah. Carlton
welcome to the now
runs a
small
town. Yeah. She's been there 8 years. Carlton says she now runs a small town clinic with low stress, less paperwork, and no fear of burying her patients in medical debt. She dropped her American citizenship last year. People I know have said, you just left in time. You left just in time, or you left just in time. I tell people, I know when you're going to move. There's your story. Doctor's moving.
That's literally
pretty
me.
Soon.
Like...
Yeah, pretty soon in America, you'll have, instead of a doctor giving you the wrong care because the insurance company denied it, you're just going to have a nurse doing the same thing. We'd love to treat you, but hey, the insurance company says we can't. So fuck you. Go die somewhere. Go find a hole to die. Anyway, your non sequitur.
No, not my non sequitur. My metaphor. Looks like the doctors in the United States are falling into the black hole. You better start heading out to space somewhere else, because they don't appreciate you there. I mean, we already talked about this weeks ago with the EU, right? The EU is putting all its sight lines on the brain drain, right? Hey, guys, not getting enough researching money in the US? We'll give you some, right? They're not just stealing doctors; they're stealing other scientists of all sorts of things, researchers. Pharma people, everyone is what the EU is going after. It's like, guys, come on over. We'll give you a visa, a really easy visa. You can go ahead and live here. Yeah, I don't want to be the one say I told you so, because honestly, I didn't leave the US because of Trump. That was just a great coincidence for me. I was going to leave the US no matter what happened. I was very, very young in my life was I disillusioned with the United States. As growing up in the 2000s, you learned that, it's the best country out there and all of this stuff. And then as soon as you leave, you find somewhere that's a little better. You're like, wait a minute, all that stuff is bullshit. It's great to be patriotic and proud of where you're from, but don't act like you've, reached the highest point of human existence, because you have not. No one has, to be fair. No one has. But, I do like here in the Netherlands that I don't have to worry about a mass shooting. So, yeah, thumbs up for me.
Right.
Okay, let's roll our next segue.
That was the longest metaphor. Great.
Good morning, Amlin. Welcome. Happy Monday. Well, decent Monday. All right, we got another metaphor here for my story, as we're going to talk about the UN's Ocean Conference, the third one ever happened. It opened, I think, last Monday, and now we've got a whole week of conferences in Nice, in France. French President Emmanuel Macron, this is on AP News by Annika Hammerschlag. French President Emmanuel Macron delivered the keynote address.
What's my segue?
Accurate metaphor, simile.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
French President Emmanuel Macron, delivering the keynote address in the host city of Nice, urged countries to move from words to deeds in safeguarding the oceans. He warned that the fight for the ocean is at the heart of the years-long battle for biodiversity, for climate, for our environment, and for our health. The conference comes as just 2.7% of the ocean is effectively protected from destructive extractive activities, according to a non-profit Marine Conservation Institute. That's far below the target agreed under the 30-30 pledge to conserve 30% of the ocean and sea by 2030. Up top the EU's agenda is the ratification of the High Seas Treaty. Adopted in 2023, the treaty would, for the first time, allow nations to establish marine protected areas in international waters that cover nearly 2/3 of the ocean and are largely ungoverned. I'm not sure. I think that just means to protect it, but maybe they're also, I don't know, they're arresting people. It's a wild west out there, with the countries just fishing anywhere without any sort of regulation. That needs to change, said Mauro Rondonde, Regional Project Manager of the World Wildlife Fund's Mediterranean Marine Initiative, the WWF-MMMI. The seas belongs to everyone and no one practically at the same time, and the countries are finally committing to establish some rules. The ocean is critical, stabilizing Earth's climate and system of life. It generates 50% of the oxygen we breathe, absorbs around 30% of the carbon dioxide emissions, and captures 90% of the excess heat caused by those emissions. Without a healthy ocean, experts warn climate goals will remain out of reach. The treaty will only come in force once 60 countries ratify it. As of today, just 32 countries had, so they need 30 more, or less than that, I guess 8 more. Advocates hope UNOC can build enough momentum to cross the threshold, which would allow for the first official Oceans Conference of Parties. 2/3 of the ocean is area beyond national jurisdiction. That's half of our planet, said Mina Epps, Director of the Global Ocean Policy, the International Union for Conservation of Nature. We cannot possibly protect 30% of the ocean if it doesn't include the high seas. South Korea, France, and the European Union have championed the treaty, but most large ocean nations have yet to ratify it, probably because they're making so much money breaking those regulations, including the rest of the G20. Thousands of attendees are expected, and delegates and heads of state to science and industry. The United States has yet to confirm a formal delegation. But, of course, they're not going to go. Didn't we just talk about how Trump is, what is it? Offshore drilling by the American Samoas or something? He doesn't give a shit about the ocean. He's not going to send anybody. And also, as I previously mentioned, all the researchers that would care have probably already moved to the EU or Canada or somewhere. They've already left. Luck with the climate, guys. We're going somewhere else where people actually listen to us. Beyond new commitments, the conference highlights the growing gap between protection declarations and real-world conservation. France, the conference co-host, claims to have surpassed the 30% target for marine protection, but environmental groups say only 3% of French waters are protected from harmful activities like bottom trawling and industrial fishing. In 2024 alone, more than 100 bottom trawling vessels were recorded spending over 17,000 hours fishing within France's 6 marine nature parks. Yeah, that's exactly where I'd love to get my fish, from a nature park. According to ocean advocacy group Oceana, the government declares these are protected areas, but this is a lie, said Enrique Sala, founder of National Geographic Seas Marine Reserve Project. Most of it is political box ticking, all paper crank box. Yeah, if nobody enforces it, it's not real. Criticism is echoed across the continent. A new World Wildlife Fund report found that although more than 11% of Europe's marine areas designed for protection, just 2% of EU waters have management plans in place. Fabien Balliot, Director of Marine Protected Areas at France's Office for Biodiversity, acknowledged the presence of bottom trawling in French protected areas, but said it was part of a phased strategy. In France, he made the choice to designate large marine protected areas with relatively low levels of regulation first, betting that stronger protections would be developed over time through local governance. Today, we're gradually red zones with strict protections areas. While many marine protected areas struggle with enforcement, others show the real protection can achieve. Off the southern coast of France, Coast National Park is one of the oldest marine reserves in the Mediterranean. There, strict anchoring bans have allowed vast seagrass meadows to grow undisturbed. Massive groupers patrol rocky outcrops, brightly colored Dunderbox munch on algae, and schools of large corbs glide through the shallows undisturbed by fishing lines. Thanks to the protections that have been in place since 1963, as old as Roger over here, they can observe the species that are much larger than elsewhere in the Mediterranean and at a much higher density than other areas. This is Hubert Flaving, manager of the Mio Palmo Dive Center in Kyiv, France. Still, such examples remain exceptions. I mean, if one person can do it, everyone can do it. That's what humans like to do best. Hey, you can do that too. Frustrated by government inaction, environmental groups have taken enforcement into their own hands. In May, Greenpeace dropped 15 limestone boulders in France's Gulf du Lion, aiming to physically block bottom trawling in a marine area that had long been designated for protection. The protected zone was established in 2008 to preserve deep systems, yet 12 trawlers continue to operate there despite scientific warnings of ecological collapse of the activist act. Now, maybe people are asking, why do we care about bottom trawlers? Like, what do they actually do? Well, imagine a shovel, but on the seafloor, and just shoveling everything up. So coral, algae, any sort of like protective garden. Like if I just went into your garden and just started shoveling your entire garden up, and then just throwing it around, right? Not even doing anything with it. Throwing it all around. Oh, that's not fish. Just leave a waste pile over here, dump it somewhere. And it's just it's not pretty, it's not nice, and it's not great for fish. Especially if you want to fish, why would you destroy the habitat in which they grow in? How are you going to get any fish if you're killing where they live? Oh, they have no house now, and now they're all dead, and now you don't have any fish.
There's profits to be had. What are you talking about? There's
profits now, no fish later. Great plan.
That's right. Yeah.
The conference will feature 10 panels on topics such as blue finance, sustainable fisheries, and plastic pollution. Deep sea mining is expected to feature in a broader discussion, especially since cough, the U.S. is doing that. While small islands, states are still likely to use the platform to advocate for increased climate adaptation funding. The outcome of these discussions will form the basis of the Nice Ocean Action Plan, a declaration of voluntary commitments adopted by the consensus presented at the United Nations in New York this July. There cannot be a healthy planet without a healthy ocean, said Peter Thompson, and Special Envoy for the Ocean. It's urgent business for us all. So there is your full disclosure on the Ocean Conference, which started last week, and it's been going, and they're working on getting those signatories for the High Ocean Treaty so that they can start some regulation in the high ocean that's being destroyed by trawling and overfishing and probably all sorts of other things that industrial world has brought into the not taking any responsibility for. So save our oceans, go out there and campaign for your somebody, your local governing body, and say, hey, give a shit about the oceans, otherwise we're all gonna die.
That's right. Yep, and oceans are like a giant filter for our planet. There you go, a giant CO2 filter, because all the algae that grows and absorbs the CO2 does not escape into our atmosphere.
Yeah, algae makes more oxygen for our atmosphere than trees do.
Well, because 71% or something of the planet is water.
Yeah.
All right. And we're made of water, 71%. What a coincidence.
No, I think it was 80%, wasn't it? I don't know.
Whatever.
Throw some numbers out there. There's a lot of water. We need water, so take care of the water, yeah?
Yeah, we contain as much water. We contain almost the same percentage of water as Earth. I got to stop thinking. Anyway, next story.
That's the end of the list.
One story is all I can handle. Yeah, let's get this done.
I didn't know you were thinking to begin with, so that's news on me.
You didn't know what?
You were thinking to begin with.
Huh? Oh, yeah. I once in a while I do it. All right.
This reminds me of a song.
Remind you of a song. Here we go with The Rise and Fall and Rise Again of MSG by Andrew Fiozzi
of GetTalking.com. That's not the song.
Right. There you go. Get ready. I am a casualty of the MSG subterfuge. I was fooled more than a decade ago. what he's saying. When I was still an impressionable high school student in the suburbs of LA, in the Valley, the main street, Ventura Boulevard, was beset by sushi poets. That should remind you of a song. Ventura Boulevard, the Valley, huh? I'm not going to give you any hints, but it reminded me of a song. Anyway, it's beset by sushi spots, weed dispensaries, and of course, a bevy of Chinese restaurants. Some of these were hiding in strip malls behind beige signs of tinted windows, while others stood alone, clear beneath the glow of neon-lit sign, one of its letters sometimes burned out. An easy tell that the food was worth the wait. My favorite, the Plum Tree Inn, boasted an aquatic experience in the form of a tank that housed lobsters that could be delivered to your table. All you had to do was order the special. I loved it there. Until, that is, the anti-monosodium glutamate lobby told me that if I loved myself, I shouldn't love those places anymore. For the uninitiated, monosodium glutamate, more commonly and ominously known as MSG, is a chemical compound often used to enhance the flavor of food. Is kind of like salt, only supercharged. In 2002, the discovery of umami taste receptor officially established umami as the basic taste. Taylor Wallace, a food scientist at George Mason University. MSG combines sodium, like that in table salt, with glutamate, the most abundant amino acid in nature, and that provides umami, a savory taste. So despite its unsettling scientific moniker, MSG is nothing more than sodium mixed with one of the 20 amino acids crucial to the human body. MSG is a glumatic acid, which is an amino acid that, when it forms a salt with sodium, changes to glutamate instead of glumatic acid, says Wallace. And so, if you think about it, your body is made up of many essential amino acids, one of which is glutamic acid. I've been saying this wrong all the time. Glutamic acid. What am I saying? Glumatic?
Just say random words. It'll be fine. We don't need to be accurate.
Glutamic acid. As John Mahoney's 2013 BuzzFeed article at MSG, we consume this substance in 3 different ways: through proteins that contain glutamic acid, foods like Parmesan cheese, tomatoes, seaweed, and soy sauce, and lastly through MSG itself, of which the FDA estimates that most of us eat a little over half a gram of every day, according to Mahoney's article. But the decades-long hysteria around MSG has largely ignored the facts above, and indeed, though easy enough to uncover, isn't widely known. The substance was originally described as Akeda in 1907, after he noticed common flavor between foods like asparagus, tomatoes, and broth with his wife made with seaweed. Akeda was as enterprising as he was curious. So soon after his discovery, he refined and patented a way to produce pure glutamic acid, stabilizing it with salt ion to create what we now know as monosodium glutamate, says Mahoney. He called the company he founded to produce MSG Omoto, the essence of taste, thus forever linking taste glutamic acid and the chemical glutamic acid. It remains one of the largest producers of MSG in the world today. But despite being created by Japanese chemists, MSG would, as we all know, gain notoriety in the U.S. due to its associated with Chinese American cuisine.
And
a lot of it has to
racism.
do with political, social, and cultural trends that were happening in the 1960s, says journalist Thomas Germain, who had previously written about the MSG debate for Columbia Undergraduate Research Journal. So at the beginning of the 1960s, a writer named Rachel Carson published a book called Silent Spring, which is about the dangers of pesticides and chemical companies. Carson's book says Germain spurred the idea that became really popular in the U.S., namely that chemicals and additives that are made artificially are inherently bad, inherently dangerous, and able to harm you in mysterious ways. They don't even realize it's happening, Germain says in a summary of the book's main takeaway about pesticides. It can be invisible, almost. Germain continues to say that just a few years later, in 1968, Dr. Robert Homan Kwok, a then recent Chinese immigrant, wrote a letter to the editors of New England Journal of Medicine stating that he got headaches when he ate Chinese restaurants, but he didn't get them with his own home cooking, reasoning unscientifically that
Yes.
the culprit might be MSG, although immediately this idea caught on and just exploded. So it might not be racism. This guy was a Chinese immigrant, so let's just not jump to the racism.
Internalized racism.
Compounding this, quotes at this article might not be just because you trend in that direction. Doesn't mean this guy definitely. Oh, he was a self-loathing Chinese man.
I'm only 10%
Jermaine
serious.
Okay, compounding this, German in 1969, a different study showed a casual link between MSG, headaches, and CRS, or Chinese. There's a racist term. That same year, Washington University, John Olney, CRS, Chinese restaurant syndrome. You got a case of CRS.
Okay.
Sounds like something Dr. House would say.
Yeah.
Dr. House pulled that out of his ass, right? Here, you got a case of CRS.
This is an ancient disease, yeah, from China.
Yeah. Here's the thing: if you're getting heartburn or whatever, it's probably something else you ate. It's just a combination of things, probably. Just take a Pepsid and shut up. That same year, Washington University's Dr. John Olney, published an article in Science which found that mice dosed with MSG developed brain lesions, stunted skeletal growth, obesity, and female sterility. Writes Germain. A few years later, Olney published a new study that found similar defects in infant primates. As Wallace points out, though, these rat studies were highly medically problematic, with rats being given an IV injection of MSG at levels far above those you'd ever experience with your food. Even had those studies been more realistic, he adds, they still wouldn't necessarily be relevant. We do a lot of rat studies at George Mason, but the bad thing about rat studies is only about 10% of the time they translate what actually happens in humans, he said. It's kind of like how chocolate is a neurotoxin in dogs, but we all eat chocolate and we're just fine. It's the same thing with rats. That's a weird, interesting little simile, but it works a little bit, not completely. A similar example, according to Wallace, occurred in studies on saccharin. If you drink 20,000 Diet Cokes a day for 15 years, maybe it's detrimental. But who's going to consume that level of it, he says. And when you have an intravenous injection, that's completely different than what happens when you digest something that's broken down and absorbed. Exactly. You inject things directly in people's veins. It's not the same as it going through your stomach and the enzymes breaking it down and distributing all that nutrients throughout your body.
It goes straight to your heart when you put it in your veins. And some things don't like that.
That's right. These scientific studies are just trying to prove something, instead of just trying to use the science to actually tell them
how
something.
most science works, you're trying to disprove your hypotheses, right? So you're saying, I think this happens. Do everything you can to prove that that is not happening. That's how a good scientist does an experiment.
That's right. The way to properly test a Diet Coke on rats would have been make these rats really, 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 really fat with a terrible diet, and then have their wife tell them, you got to lose weight. And then he starts drinking 20,000 Diet Cokes a day. Anyway.
And then have their wife tell them.
And then his wife's like, you want to take it easy on the Diet Cokes there, partner?
And then
anyway,
he drinks more and more
in
a rebellion, right? I'm having more Coke. Fuck you don't tell me what to do.
Usually, a lot of these studies are funded by the American Heart Association or whatever, too, right? And it's like, oh, we want to prove fat is bad for you, without even having any science behind it. Anyway, beyond the dubious nature of these studies, there's also a simple fact that MSG isn't unique to Chinese food. It's in everything. Oh, yeah. If it says natural flavoring on the ingredients at the bottom, that's MSG, I guarantee you. Everything you eat that tastes good has MSG in it. That comes off a shelf, not you cook yourself, right? It is in everything from Campbell's soup to Doritos to ranch dressing, not to mention it's naturally found in, for example, kelp. That's why you just can't stop eating seaweed, right?
I mean, anyway, I can't. I love eating seaweed. Oh my god, like seaweed chips, dried seaweed. Hell yeah. I'm addicted.
That's why we had to stop taking it. We had to stop taking Allison to the beach when she was a child. She'd just get out there and graze.
like a freaking, what is the name of it? The sea cow. Sea cow.
Manatee, like a manatee out there in all She was the beach manatee. Is that a beach manatee? No, that's our daughter. Beyond the dubious nature of these studies, there's also a simple fact that MSG isn't unique to Chinese. Oh, I already did that, didn't I? Why haven't we get the same paragraphs twice? So why then did Chinese restaurants shoulder the brunt of MSG hysteria? Enter racism. At the base of it, it's really xenophobia that's been passed down, says food and travel journalist Christy Hang. MSG has found so many food items, but no one complains or even thinks twice about it until they set food in a Chinese restaurant. Oh my God! There's MSG everywhere! Run for your life! Yeah, right.
And then, of course, all the
MSG
Chinese restaurants had to have those fake signs up. No MSG, which is lie. They were definitely putting MSG in their food still because it didn't do anything to anyone. It wasn't real.
MSG, the fentanyl of the food industry. Anyway, but hey.
No, fentanyl is actually dangerous, but yeah.
I'm just saying, people just run for the hills when they hear MSG.
Yeah, when you hear it, yeah, that's true.
No MSG. I'm going to put no MSG in the bottom of my menu and just put MSG in everything. That's what I'm going to do, just so people just... Or with MSG. Oh, yeah, sure we don't. Anyway, so the idea that Chinese are doing something now... Oh, wait, so let's do this again. Germain agrees, telling me that the anti-MSG narrative plays into a long history of anti-Chinese racism in the U.S. Part of that is to do with the fact that this was happening at the height of the Cold War, so that the Chinese were doing something that was sneaky, like the Chinese government was running Chinese restaurants. How stupid can you be? Oh, that's the Chinese government. Anyway, this was just a confluence of all these different ideas that Hill once made a perfect storm to strike fear in the hearts and stomachs of America. You don't have to explain it. I'm an American. We know it. We are idiots. We are freaking idiots. We believe the last thing we heard, whether it's a fact or not. According to Wallace, despite the fact that you've probably heard someone tell you that I have an MSG intolerance or they're allergic to Chinese food because of MSG, the truth is it's physiologically impossible, considering that 7 pounds of your body weight is actually made of glutamic acid. For those reasons, Wallace says, even though there's plenty of pressure advocating for an MSG ban, it's always remained on the the FDA's generally recognized as safe food list. It should be noted that some researchers believe that there are those who've shown signs of genuine MSG sensitivity. In my research on the effects of MSG in individuals with irritable bowel syndrome with chronic pain condition fibromyalgia, I observed headache, including migraine, diarrhea, gastrointestinal pain, bloating, extreme fatigue, muscle pain, and cognitive dysfunction, all of which improved when subjects were put on a diet of low and free glutamate, which returned with reintroduction of MSG. Okay, so there's one person that's found it. And somebody that's got irritable bowel syndrome, right? So if you've got irritable syndrome, you're probably watching what you eat anyway. Nice time for your segue.
Okay, reminds me of my favorite song, which pour some MSG on me in the name of flavor. Yeah, we love our food tasting like stuff. Why? And this is why white people get like all that, anti-food hate, right? Because you guys just don't like flavor. You don't even like salt on your food, which is what MSG is. It's just salt.
Downright insulting.
Yeah, it's quite insulting. It's good pun. That's a good pun.
It's another form of salt. I thought the song would remind you of "Be Free Falling" by Tom Petty. Maybe you don't know the lyrics to that.
Yeah, I don't know that
Free
song.
Falling,
Oh, Free Falling.
He mentions the valley. Yeah, he mentions the valley and he mentions Ventura Boulevard. So I just.
Okay. Free Falling. That's the only part I know.
All the vampires walking through the valley, turn west down Ventura
and
Boulevard.
They don't want MSG because they are scared of Chinese people.
And the bad boys are eating that Kung Pao chicken. Anyway.
Kung Pao chicken. That General So. Anyways, our next segue is a bad pun. We're doing plenty of bad puns already, though, I think. And we're going to talk about our culture segment, which is about ballet. Ukraine is switching up their ballets. They're boycotting all the Russian ballets, and they're going to start performing everyone else's ballets. Which, yes, there's other people made ballets.
My segue again.
You're not listening. Bad pun. Bad pun.
Bad pun. Okay, go ahead.
This is by Daniel Boffey on The Guardian. One of the most English of ballets will be performed for the first time at the National Opera of Ukraine in Kyiv, after a boycott of the classical Russian repertoire, including Swan Lake and Nutcracker. Yep, sorry guys, those are Russian. Sir Frederick Ashton's La Fille Margardi, a celebrated romantic comedy, will be performed to sell-out audience on Thursday, Thursday is June 12th. After Ukraine turned away from the works of Tchaikovsky, Stravinsky, and Prokofiev. Production, which will run from at least 5 years in Kyiv, so you'll have plenty of time to go there and watch it. It was made possible by fundraising in London by former Ukrainian star of the Royal Ballet, Ivan Putrov, and sculptor Antony Gormley. The ballet's owner, Jean-Pierre Gasquet, has waived his fee. Wow, really? They're like, yeah, we're going to do this for the Ukrainians. Originally a French ballet by Jean Dobrevol, Ashton's choreography, first staged in 1960, yet another thing just as old as you, turned La Fille Margardi into one of the best-loved English ballets, featuring slapstick humor, a maypole, and traditional folk dance. Well, that does sound like a romantic comedy. The Ukrainian government has asked cultural institutions in the country and abroad to boycott ballet productions by Russian composers and choreographers on the grounds that Vladimir Putin is seeking to use culture as a weapon and justification for war. Well, you performed that Russian ballet for 12 years, so that makes you Russian. We're invading you. The artistic director of the ballet at the National Opera of Ukraine, Nobuhiro Terada, said the issue was sensitive, but that the turning point had come when dancers at the Donetsk Opera and Ballet Theater in Russian-occupied Ukraine performed the shape of a Z, a pro-war symbol, in autumn of 2022. After that, Putin claimed that Tchaikovsky, Prokofiev, and Stravinsky, all of them, belong to the Russian world and to the Russian people, he said. I believe they belong to the planet Earth. Thus, Russians are no longer Earthlings. For this story, the Minister of Culture of Ukraine at the moment said, "No more! Politics or culture are different things," but at that moment, they were a lot of victims of this war. Realized the relatives of these victims, they don't want to hear Tchaikovsky or Stravinsky or Prokofiev. A very sensitive question. I am not a politician. I have to accept an opinion of Ukrainian people. Tchaikovsky, he was in Kyiv, he lived in Kyiv, and Prokofiev was born in Donetsk. Of course, we want to perform Tchaikovsky, and a lot of performers, they want it. And it needs to happen for the next generation, in my opinion. But today, it's not a good time to perform. Boycott is controversial even among the cast of La Fille Margardi, which tells the story of a young woman named who is determined to be with a young farmer rather than her mother's choice of a dim-witted Elaine, son of a wealthy landowner. I mean, let's be honest, dim-witted husband sounds great. Yes, dear. Anyway, Danili Stilkin, 29, worked as a combat medic in the Ukrainian army for the first 18 months of the war, but will perform as Elaine in the production for time-limited exemption on service for performers. He said he did not agree with the boycott of seminal works, which he described as a big part of a world ballet. I don't think the Ukrainian government was right. I think they should say that the people that Tchaikovsky, Stravinsky, and Prokofiev do not belong to Putin. They were of a different time. And also, sounds like two of them belong to Ukraine, because two of them were from Ukraine. Adriana Shabaveva, 20, whose role is one of the friends of the main female character, said she has not had the opportunity to perform the Russian classics because of the full-scale invasion years ago. Maybe one day, not before the Russians go away, she said, so she's pro-boycott, she doesn't mind. Gerada, who came to live permanently in Ukraine without his parents in 1986 as an 11-year-old boy as part of a cultural exchange between ballet schools in Japan and the Soviet Union, said the boycott of Russian works has forced the opera house to look more widely for productions. Gerada is the owner of the house, by the way. It was earlier in the article, but a reminder. So he's a culturally Japanese, but he grew up in Ukraine. He was 11. Now he runs a theater there, or an opera there. With international assistance, he has since performed 5 tangos by the Dutch choreographer Hans van Manen, Spring and Fall by John Neumeier and Alexei Rotmansky's Wartime Elegy. Karada, who was appointed director in 2020, said, "For the war, we didn't have an opportunity to work with these people. They decided to help Ukraine in national theater and ballet because of the war. And thanks to Ivan Putrov and other sponsors who got this production, La Fille Malgardi, it was impossible to get the choreography of Frederick Ashton. You need to pay. That is the reason that this Ukrainian theater during the last 50 years has had the same productions, One Lake, Nutcracker, and Spartacus. I clearly understand it's not popular, what I'm going to say, but when war is happening, you need to use this opportunity to get the best from the world, because all the world is going to help Ukraine." Yet again, another person taking advantage. You got it. Yet again, not a bad thing to take advantage, guys. If you have it, you get it. Guardians in Kyiv will have access to the courtroom as a shelter during the Russian air raids, but other inconveniences of putting on a show during a war are more difficult to come. Putrov, who Dance for Ukraine event in London has helped finance the new production, said, "I think it was 60 men who were called up from the stage crew. I think they only have 19 left." La Fille Malgardi is a beautiful blockbuster classic that is sunny, that is the most English of ballets with a grand dame and pantomime, maypole, clog dance. It will live spirits. Ah yes, clog dances. How very English. Isn't that a Dutch stereotype? It will live the spirits. What are the Ukrainians fighting for?
Irish, isn't it Irish?
Yeah, I have no idea.
Irish. Anyway.
They're fighting for the way of life they want to live, and it's very important that the spirit is sustained. So, good luck on your production for the next, I think, what do they say, next 5 years they'll be doing the production of the most English play ever, according to everyone in this article. So, yeah, I guess if you find yourself in Ukraine, stop by. And give support to the opera house or the ballet house, whatever. Give me a pun.
Tchaikovsky pun coming up. And you gotta know, anyway, let's just do it. Using Tchaikovsky for political purpose is just plumb nuts. Get it? As the sugar plum fairies, and anyway, the dance of the sugar plum fairies and the Nutcracker Suite. One of your
for any non-ballet goers. I've never been to a ballet, but I know that much at least.
Right on.
Okay, we're rolling our next segue, and of course it's going to be a limerick for this day in history, so go ahead and get started.
This day in history, limerick, oh my god, there's a lot of famous people born today. So, and I did send you a video, so hopefully you can load it. It's... Right. Yes, this day in history, go back to the mists of time. To June 9th of 1358, the Jacquerie, a revolt of French peasants against the abuses inflicted upon them by the nobility of northeastern France, suffered a critical defeat at Meaux. I think it's pronounced Meaux. M-E-A-U-X. Meaux. Or Moo. Moo. Was named by a cow. Moo. Anyway. 1781, English... I'm entertaining myself. I really don't... thought that was funny. 1781, English engineer George Stephenson, the principal inventor of the railroad locomotive, was born. So you wouldn't have trains without that guy, so happy birthday to him. We probably have trains, but they'd be different somewhat. 1815, the final act of the Congress of Vienna, not compromising, although there was compromises. Anyway, the final act of the Congress of Vienna, comprising several agreements separately negotiated among various participants for the reorganization of Europe in the aftermath of the Napoleonic Wars. Man, I can't talk. Anyway, it was signed, this is precursor to the European Union, way back in 1815. It was signed by Austria, France, Great Britain, Portugal, Prussia, Russia, and Sweden. And peace mostly reigned for another 100 years. In 1870, English writer Charles Dickens was born. Oh no, he died. Considered one of the greatest Victorian novelists. Died at Gadshill near Chatham, Kent. So Dickens, that little Dickens, died this day, 1870,
A
1891.
working class hero, writing those stories of how shitty it was to be working in Victorian times.
Aha. In 1891, Cole Porter was born, American composer, lyricist, who brought a worldly elan to the American musical. Was born in Peru, Indiana. That's right, the worldly state of Indiana is from. Anyway, it just contradicts itself, and it's very reading. It's like, that makes no sense. He brought worldly sophistication all the way from some small town in Indiana. Anyway. 1940, German tank forces under Major General Erwin Rommel crossed the Seine River and pushed the Atlantic coast of France during World War II, which Rommel eventually had to commit suicide because he tried to assassinate Hitler. 1942, on this day, the residents of the village of Ledis, now in the Czech Republic, were rounded up, most to be massacred the next day in a reprisal for the assassination of Czech underground fighters of Reinhard Heydrich, deputy leader of the Nazi paramilitary group SS.
So don't say they didn't fight back.
What
they
happened
definitely
was
did.
the Czech Republic underground assassinated a Nazi, and they just started rounding up civilians to shoot them.
Yep.
So yeah, that's what Nazis do. That's what we're in for, United States. You think you're gonna get over? Just keep kissing it, fascists, until they just run out of people punished, and they're going to punish you. 1937, American Racehorse Secretariat won the Belmont Stakes by an unprecedented 31 lengths. A length is a length of a horse. So you could squeeze 31 horses between Secretariat and the second place horse.
Cool.
Yeah, as a record. And anyway, and of course, winning the Triple Crown, Secretariat had earlier won the Kentucky Derby and the Preakness Stakes. I can't talk. Mouth not working. And this day in 2008, American baseball player Kenny Griffey Jr. hit his 600th career home run, becoming the sixth player in Major League history to accomplish that feat. Ken Griffey Jr. actually played baseball on the same team with his father, Ken Griffey Sr., the only father-son duo to hit a home run in the same game. In 1891, they're going to do our featured event. Oh boy. 1983, Britain took a hard right turn into, hey, let's punish poor people for being poor. That's right. Landslide re-election victory for Margaret Thatcher. British Conservative Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher, buoyed by a victory in the Falkland Islands War, as they call it in Brooklyn, the Falkland Islands, and by deep divisions within the opposition, Labour was easily re-elected to a second term in office in 1983. Deep divisions in the Labour Party. So that's what you get. You want perfect government, and you're never going to get it, and you keep saying, oh, we can't get perfect. We just elect Margaret Thatcher. What can go wrong?
We don't need milk in our schools.
That's right.
She famously took the milk away from Welsh kids. And that's why I said that. She famously like, no, you don't. Your kids don't need milk.
It's your fault for being poor.
Yeah.
What? You're poor. You're poor. What do wrong? That's been the mentality of the world ever since the Reagan/Thatcher idiocy of thinking, oh, rich people are much better than us. They must be better. They're rich. Look at them.
Yeah, it's an ethical determination. Must have been a good person.
My experience with rich people, they're inferior, if anything. They don't feel like they can learn anything about life. They just got it taken care of for them. I mean the people that are born rich. I'm not talking about the ones that actually had to work for it. Anyway, feature biography. Peter the First, or otherwise known as Peter the Great, Emperor of Russia, born on June 9th, 1672. He only got to be 52. Born in Moscow, died in St. Petersburg in 1725. Other birthdays today, big day, be Cole Porter's birthday. American composer and lyricist, of course. Les Paul's birthday today. He turns 110. Happy birthday, Les Paul. Les Paul, American inventor and musician. Basically invented the electric guitar. There was no real electric guitars before Les Paul. He invented it. He invented a bunch of stuff that you could play your guitar through. He invented a lot of ways to play the guitar. So Les Paul, basically, one of the founders of rock and roll. And in 1961, Michael J. Fox, Canadian actor, born on this day. He turned 64 today. It's Johnny Depp's 62nd birthday. Happy birthday, born 1963. And Natalie Portman, Israeli-American actress, they say. Very. And I believe a Rhodes Scholar. Anyway, she's like a 4.0 in college, really super smart. Natalie Portman's birthday. She was born in 1981, turning 44 today. And what days is it today? It's National Donald Duck Day. Yeah, I can do my Donald Duck. National Rhubarb. National Strawberry Rhubarb Pie Day. Two things that come and ripe at about the same time. This time of year, rhubarb, if you're not familiar, will grow anywhere. You don't even have to plant it. You just throw some rhubarb and it'll just take over everything inside. And it's very sour. And for some reason, people decided it's a great combination with strawberry. Probably because they're both ripe at the same time. Or they come ripe at the same time. And it's National Earl Day. And it says National Earl Day, but then it's got a picture of somebody squealing their tires. There's smoke coming off their rear tire. I'm not sure what that's about. Let's see. Oh.
Earl, what are you doing, Earl?
Music playing. All right, let's pause that. Each day in June 9th, we celebrate National Earl Day to honor those legends named Earl. While the name is becoming uncommon these days, the privilege of being named Earl deserved a shout out today. What does that have to do with squealing tires? I have no idea. There's not enough people. There's not. Earl Baeltz was one enterprising man and went for a band leader, dirt racetrack owner in 1954. There you go. Earl Bates owned a dirt track. That's the Earl we're celebrating today. Way to own a dirt track, guy. How's your days? Your spins of the wheel, your mispronunciations, your awful puns. For Monday, Mucking Fonday, June 9th, 2025, on Before Strawberry Rhubarb Pie.
Strawberry rhubarb pie. Delicious. It was also National Best Friend Day yesterday, so I also wrote a limerick for that because, no one ever covers Sundays, national days. So here we go. My only three limericks.
Alternate years.
My only three limericks here. Yet, not without controversy, her policies stirred up fury. But standing tall, she faced the fray. With courage fierce, she had her say. Margaret Thatcher, re-elected, held her way. In Waukegan, in 15, a child named Les was born. I don't know. Waukegan? With dreams of music that would never be forlorn. Guitar he'd played with such delight. His fingers danced across strings so light. The music he created, it forever adorned. Through laughter and tears, through joy and strife, friendship stood strong like a life. A bond so deep it defies description. A love that's pure, without prescription. There's your three limericks for our This Day in History. Without prescription. I love that. Okay. A little proud. And is it an international UN observance day? It is not. It was World Ocean Day, which is why we're celebrating Ocean Conference, the third annual Ocean Conference. Where save the damn ocean. That's all you gotta do. Take care of the fish. Take care of the biome. Stop polluting. It's not hard. Just don't throw oil in the ocean, okay? Throw things away properly. I don't know.
Yeah, tell the Navy.
I know it's not really the individual's responsibility. I'm a believer that it's corporations' responsibility because they do way more pollution than anyone else. You could get 10,000 people and they wouldn't pollute as much as one corporation. Don't quote me on that, but I wouldn't be surprised if that was accurate. And we will see you tomorrow for our Good Tues News Day, in which we will find all the good news we can find for this week and tell you about it. To remind you, it's not going so great, but some people have a great time, and you can too. So make sure you're subscribed to the Ali and Raw channel, and you have the notifications on so you know when to go live and post a video. And if anybody paid attention, you would have noticed that I accidentally uploaded the Thursday episode on Friday. because I have dyscalculia and I saw 0506 and 0605 and my brain was like, that's not the right episode. But now the Friday episode should be up now, so that should be available to watch if anybody missed Friday's episode. And let's go to our mic drop moment. 1915, he was born 1915. That's crazy to me, because rock and roll just does not feel that old, but it really is, like a century old.
1951, this is before rock and roll.
No, I'm saying he was born in 1915. That's Paul.
Oh, right, yeah. Here he is at the age of 36, with his wife, Mary Ford, one of their hit songs, predating rock and roll. Electric guitar was adapted by blues musicians and country musicians.
That's cute that she's like listening with the headphones like that.
Right. This is the technology of the age, man. This is the way things are still recorded.
And Les Paul still look like that to this day. A perfect design. No changes necessary.
Right. Oh, he built his own amps too. Don't forget that. He built his own amps. So he was a technician. He wasn't just a player. And of course, who played electric guitar before Les Paul? Nobody. Nobody did. Not one damn person played electric guitar.
Why would they put electricity in that? That's silly.
Right. He's a Gibson guitar guy.
I wish there was like somebody, like a great guitarist. Yeah. Playing, honestly, doesn't look wrong, but I only play the bass.
Look at him, man. Look at the size of his hands, too, right? He got big hands. That's the key.
That's why.
Seriously.
Les Pauls are so big.
Look how long his fingers are. Yeah.
That's true, though. As somebody with small hands, very hard for me to play the guitar because it's made for a bigger hand. I need one of them girl guitars for small hands.
Be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and notify buttons, and follow our other channels, Toxic Alley, History of Gravy, and Scratchy Old Records.